So I had to do quite a bit of running around this morning, so I'm not getting back to this backhoe as soon as I was hoping to. I've got a little bit of time before I have to go back out and feed. So we're gonna see how far we can get out with this and see maybe if we can at least get things ready so I can start welding the spear back on. And if we don't get it finished today, I'll see if I can get it done tomorrow. So I did go up to the parts store up at CarQuest and grabbed one of these spears. I'm glad we're only having to replace one of them because these are pretty expensive. And talking to the guys up there at the parts store, they were in agreement with the same thing my neighbor was telling me, that these spears that are forged and tempered are going to be a lot stronger than these 2-inch round stock that these other spears are made out of. Because like I said, these ones here, they bend a lot, and we've had to rebend them quite a few times. And like I said, that one that we're replacing now is broke off twice already, so hopefully this will help with our problem of breaking all these spears off so many times. We got the sleeve with it too. So this sleeve, I'll just show you guys again what my idea is. So like I said, I need to cut out some flat plate and weld here and just fill up these holes. So you won't even see these holes here. Same with the back side. We're gonna weld some plate over these holes. Then we'll just cut a hole in our new plate to fit this sleeve in. So just imagine that we're gonna fill up our hole here. We're gonna put a plate over a hole, and this cylinder, the sleeve here, is gonna set inside of the new plate. And then our spear is gonna sit right inside of our sleeve. Then on the back side, of course, you've got your nut that will keep it locked tight. So that's what we got. It's gonna be sitting in there like so. And that way, hopefully if we ever break another one of these spears, we'll be able to just replace it with the spear here, and the sleeve will be able to stay in here. So I'm gonna make sure I put anti-seize on the inside of this sleeve on the spear part. Because when this other spear broke the last time, I tried to press this spear that was in here out, and I couldn't do it with our little pump hydraulic press here. It's like a little pump jack press. Just this little bottle jack press, that's what I'm talking about. So I ended up having to take it up to our neighbors up the road here who have a big actual electric over hydraulic, or hydraulic over electric, however you want to say it, press. And I think it was about all that thing took to push that out of there. It was creaking and groaning, and I didn't want to stand by it, but they got it pressed out for me. So we're gonna make sure we throw a bunch of anti-seize on this one to hopefully, if it ever does break again, it'll come out easier. So first things first, I just need to go over to my metal pile here and cut out some of that flat stock that I got. So the stuff I got, I believe, is 6 inches wide, 5/16 inch thick, and we'll just cut it to this length. I'll have to measure that and see. So we'll just cut it, I think 7 inches is what we're gonna do. So I'm just measuring in from this end this way, 11 inches and 3/4. So 11 3/4 inches. And I'll do the same thing on the back side. Then that way I know my plates are exactly the same distance in. And there's no real reason for 11 3/4. Besides, that's the distance that I needed to span this hole equally on either side with the plates that we cut out. So 11 3/4 is here. So the plate will sit just about right over here. Morning everyone. So this has been a pretty slow moving project for me. I've just been picking away at it when I get a few minutes here and there, but I'm hoping this morning I'll be able to wrap this up and get it finished, just so I can get this off my to-do list. So last night I started welding a bit on these plates that we're putting on here to cover up our holes that we have, and my welder was acting up and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I've already started grinding the bad weld off, but what would happen is welding along, like it would act like it was running out of gas. So it'd start spattering, sputtering, and get really porous. And if you look in here real close, you can see some of the holes here in the porous weld. And all of a sudden then it'd start going fine again. Then it'd go bad again. So it was almost acting like it was running out of gas. But I knew it wasn't out of gas because I just barely changed the tank in it before I started this project. So I knew I had gas. But what I think the problem is, so I don't know how well the camera is picking this up, but I customized my welder a bit when I used to do a whole bunch of welding out here, and I customized it to feed a bigger spool of welding wire instead of just putting the 5 or 10 pound spools inside the welder. I customized it to fit these. I think these are 45 pounders. I can't remember exactly what these weighed. But I customized it to be able to feed this from the outside and just go through the welder and then up through the leads to the your project. And I really haven't done any welding this winter, so this wire's been sitting out to the elements. I keep it covered with just a welding jacket. But if you look close, you can almost see that there's a whole bunch of rust on this exposed outer layer. And I really think that's what's causing me my problems, is this rust. So that would make sense on why it would be going fine, then all of a sudden it would start acting up. Because if you look here, so as you get to the bottom of the spool, it's not near as rusty and it's a lot cleaner. So the bottom side of the spool maybe didn't absorb as much of that moisture as the top side. And so when you get to the bottom, when it starts feeding from the bottom, as this rotates, it'd get into cleaner wire and then it would weld fine. So I think what I'm gonna have to do, I'm just gonna have to strip this whole layer of wire off this to get rid of that corroded wire and see if that fixes our problem here. So I just released the tension off this wire so I can just pull it right through the welding lead, and we'll just strip this wire off. But man, that was frustrating yesterday. Trying to make a good bead on this and just it was acting up like that, and I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. But that makes some more sense. Like I think that's probably the problem. All right, we're gonna try that. I can still see a few corroded spots, but definitely looks a lot better. I got this little cloth that I run the wire through before it enters the machine. I just feel like it cleans the dust or whatever might be on the wire as it enters. So yeah, the cloth just goes in between the spool and the back of the machine, so as it feeds the wire into as the machine pulls the wire, this cloth self cleans the wire. I mean, it's not going to clean all the corrosion and rust, but it'll clean the dust off at least. I don't know, maybe that's something to think about. If I'm not going to be welding as often as what I was in the past, maybe I should go back to the smaller spools that will fit inside here and be protected more from the elements. So, because you don't want to be wasting welding wire. All right, let's give that a try. Okay, we'll see if we can't fix this spot here. Like I said, you can see it was because it would always be this part of the weld, and I'm sure that's exactly what it was. I was feeding off the top of that roll. By the time I'd get over here, it'd start feeding real nice and pretty. Then I get back over here, and we'd be feeding off the top of the roll again, and just sputter and spatter, and it's pretty frustrating. But hopefully that fixes it, and we'll touch this up and weld up the rest of this, and then finish welding up the back side. Now, for some reason, the power went out. I don't know what's going on. Just take a break for a minute and hopefully it comes back on. Because I can always fire up that engine-driven welder and get this done. I'm about to that point. I just want to be done with this, and it's just taking forever. So after thinking about this for a minute, I'm wondering if this welder here of mine, this engine-driven portable welder, has enough power to run this wire feed. The other year when I was doing that elk fence and building all the metal braces, I was running my plasma cutter off of this. So I don't know why it wouldn't run that. I don't remember what the amperages this require are, but we'll give it a try and see what it does. Measurement's pretty close. That looks pretty good looking across there. Looks pretty level with the other ones, and looking across the front here, looks like it's pretty well spaced. It is kicked out to the right a little bit, but I can move around a little bit to compensate for that. Power came back on when I was cutting out them holes. So my GoPro died, but I got it all put back together. I don't know any reason why this shouldn't work and do its job. So I'm gonna end this one here. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching. Have a good day.